Hey, thank you very much for clicking. This is Rohit. I welcome you to grammarfit.com English Made Easy. I hope you're having a good time and you're learning English. Today we are going to talk about something so important that it can actually change the entire meaning if you don't use it. Right? We are talking about comma rules. Yeah, especially in writing. Students, if you're writing a mail or you're writing anything, comma rules are very, very, very important, and I'm sure you're going to like this lesson. Now, take a look at this picture so you have a clarity what I'm talking about. Look at this girl, lady, so happy, dog is so happy, and just pay attention here. It says Rachel, Ray, maybe a girl, lady, someone, finds inspiration in cooking her family and her dog. Oh, this is so weird. It means this girl, Rachel, she finds inspiration when she cooks her family and her dog. Oh, this is so bizarre. This is so weird. You know why? Because they forgot to use the comma here. Let's take one more example. Let's eat Grandpa. Grandpa is dead because we are planning to eat him. Oh, why? Because we don't use comma here. So let's eat Grandpa is like let's eat chocolate, let's eat something. So this is so bad. So don't forget to use comma right here. Okay? So you're asking your grandpa to eat. So you say, hey, grandpa, let's eat. So use comma because you're talking to your grandpa. But if I don't use it, that means I'm like, okay, let's go eat grandpa. He's very tasty. So correct punctuation can save a person's life. I hope you understand why it's so important. Number one, use comma to separate three or more words, phrases, or clauses written in series. Example. My estate goes to my husband, son, daughter-in-law, and nephew. So I have husband, son, daughter-in-law, nephew, and they are in a series. So how do I separate them? With the comma. So my estate goes to my husband, comma, son, comma, daughter-in-law, comma, and nephew. Second example, we had coffee, comma, cheese and crackers. This is one word. This is one thing. So don't get confused here. So coffee, comma, cheese and crackers, comma, and grapes. Third example, I like apples, comma, mangoes, comma, grapes, comma, and strawberries. So when you have three or more words in a series, you separate them with a comma. Take a look at the picture. I found this on the internet and it's so funny. Some guy named Sandeep, he actually updated this thing. It says, wake up, eat, poop. That's his plan for next 4 days. Ah, that's so disgusting. Do you see the mistake here? Wake up. There should be a comma here. Should have been a comma. Wake up, comma, eat, comma, poop. So you wake up, then you eat, and then you poop. That's the plan. But he forgot. The meaning has changed completely. Number two, use a comma to separate two adjectives when the order of the adjective is interchangeable. Example, he is a strong, comma, healthy man. Strong is my adjective, healthy is my adjective. I can interchange. That means I can say he is a healthy, strong man. So I can interchange. So I can put comma. Another example, we stayed at an expensive summer resort. There is no comma. Why? Let's take a look. Because we will never say summer expensive resort because that makes no sense. So it's very easy to remember. If you are confused whether to use comma or not, take a look at the bottom and read that. So it says, just imagine it. If you can put and between two adjectives and it still makes sense, that means you can easily use comma. For example, he's a strong and healthy man. So I can use comma. But can I say we stayed at an expensive and summer resort? Doesn't make sense. So no comma. This is right here. Number three, we use comma when the sentence starts with a dependent clause. Guys, remember dependent clause, then followed by an independent clause. Just to give you a recap, dependent clause is basically a clause which cannot stand by itself. It makes no sense. It needs a complete independent clause to make sense. For example, after he walked all the way home, if I stop it here and remove this, then it makes no sense. And you're like, okay, so after he walked all the way home, then what? What happened? Because then you need another independent clause to make sense. Then he shut the door. So after he walked all the way home, comma, because this is a dependent clause, you comma, and then you say he shut the door. Before you go out, let's say I remove all this, and you're like, okay, what do I do before I go out? So, because it makes no sense, it needs another dependent clause. So, before you go out, comma, you should finish your homework. If I became the president of India, comma, I would change the way the country is run. Should you meet John, comma, please say hello for me. Having finally arrived in town, comma, we went shopping. But so your first you have your dependent clause followed by the independent clause. You separate them with the comma, but you don't use comma to separate if your sentence, the first sentence is an independent one. For example, I will help you if you are not sure about this. So we use no comma if my first clause is independent and the second is dependent. So remember, first is dependent. I use comma to separate it from the independent clause. Very remember. Oh, sorry. Just remember that. In sentences where two independent clauses are joined by connectors such as and, or, but, etc., you put a comma at the end of the first clause. So I have one independent clause, I have second independent clause, and then they are connected with a connector. So he walked all the way home, comma, and he shut the door. I like to play cricket every day. And I like to sleep a lot. So guys, did you see the mistake? I did not use comma. So there should have been a comma. He likes to speak in English, comma, but he never takes initiative. So independent clause, connected with a connector, I use comma. But remember, sometimes writers omit, they decide not to use comma when you're both the sentences independent one are very short. For example, I paint, only subject and a verb. He writes, subject and a verb. And so if you don't use comma here, it's okay. It's still right. If something or someone is sufficiently identified, the description that follows is considered non-essential and should be surrounded by commas. I'm sorry about this. So Freddie was in an auto accident. So let's say I am Rohit, you're John, I'm talking to you. You meet me and I tell you, you know Freddie? And you're like, yeah, I know him. So I'll take, see, Freddie was in an auto accident. And you're like, oh, this is so bad. So now you know Freddie, I know Freddie. So this information is extra information. Who has a limp, right? If I remove this sentence still makes sense. Freddie was in an auto accident. So if I'm giving extra information which is not important, I separate this with comma. So I use comma before the information and after the information. Second example, his wife did not attend the party yesterday. So who is a doctor, which is extra information. So you separate, you use comma before the information, which is unnecessary, and after that. Anna does not like to talk to strangers. I'm giving you extra information. Anna, who is an artist, does not like to talk to strangers. So I can remove this information and I can still make complete sense. So, comma before the information and after that. Now I want you to pay extra attention because it says a boy who was my student was in an auto accident. How about you take 2 seconds and think about this, that why I decided not to use comma. Now, if I say a boy was in auto accident, let's say I'm talking to you and you're like, okay, which boy are you talking about? So now I'm giving information here, but this is very necessary for the sentence to make sense because you don't know which boy I'm talking about. So I say a boy who was my student was in auto accident, and you're like, oh, okay. So now this information becomes very important. So we don't use comma because we need this information to make sense here. So remember, when you have extra information, you can separate with them comma, but the information is important, you don't use comma here. So use a comma after certain words that introduce a sentence such as well, yes, why, hello, hey, etc. Example, why, comma, I can't remember this. So let's say, hey, do you remember John? And you're like, oh shit, why I can't remember this? Or why I can't remember him. So you start your sentence with the word why, use a comma after it. No, you can't have $1. So you talk to your mother and you say, hey mother, can I have $1? And she says, no, comma, you can't have $1. So if you start your sentence with why, no, well, hello, put a comma after it. Second, use comma to set off expressions that interrupt the sentence flow. For example, nevertheless, after all, by the way, on the other hand, and however, etc. Example, I am, by the way, very nervous about this. So this is there. This by the way is interrupting the flow, right? So what do? Put a comma before and after it. So I am, comma, by the way, comma, very nervous about this. Or you can say he is your father. That makes a perfect sense. What if I say he is, after all, your father? So you say he is, comma, after all, comma, your father. Period. Next one, use comma while addressing the person directly. So let's say I am Rohit, I'm talking to you directly, and I say, hey Anna, come and clean the dishes. I'm talking to Anna directly. I'm addressing her. Anna, come and clean the dishes. So when you address someone, when you talk to someone directly, use a comma after their name. I am going out, comma, mother. So let's say you're going out and you're addressing your mother. You say, mother, comma, I am going out, or I am going out, comma, mother. Now you're talking to Aisha. You say, will you, comma, Aisha, comma, do that assignment for me? So you're asking for a favor and you ask Aisha, you're addressing her, so you separate her name with the commas. Yes, comma, all friend, I will. So you say, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you buy me some chocolate? And you're like, yes, comma, all friend, I will. Good day, Captain. So you have a captain, you say, good day. You're addressing him, you have a comma to separate. Now let's take a look. Let's eat grandma. Do you see that? Now this and she's like, "Oh, what? Are you going to eat me?" This makes no sense here because that means you're going to eat your grandma, which is so bad. No. So let's say you and I are talking to our grandma and we are asking her, "Hey grandma, let's eat." But I forgot to put comma. So meaning changes. So don't forget that. So when you're addressing someone, put a comma. Punctuation saves lives. Always remember that. Next, use a comma to separate the day of the month from the year. And what most people forget, always put one after the year also. Example, it was in the sun's June 5th, comma, 2003, comma, edition. So remember, you have comma after the year. No comma is necessary for just a month and a year. So if you mention just a month and a year, no comma is required. For example, it was in a June 2003 article. Use a comma to separate a city from its state and remember to put one after the state as well. I am from uh, Akron, comma, Ohio, comma, US, for example. Or I can say I am from, I can say New Delhi, comma, Delhi, India. Use comma to introduce or interrupt direct quotation. For example, he said, comma, I don't care. Why, comma, I ask, comma, don't you care? He told me, comma, where are you going? He asked me, comma, where he was going. Use a comma to separate a statement part from a question. Sorry. So example, I can go, comma, can't I? Or you can say, I am going to school, comma, ain't I? You're going to clean the dishes, comma, aren't you? Okay. Use a comma to separate contrasting parts of a sentence. So when you have a contrast, for example, this is my money, comma, not yours. So don't forget about that. Or you can say, this is my car, comma, not yours. And you can say, she is my best friend, don't talk to her. So she's my best friend, comma, not yours. Remember. Thank you very much. I have tried my level best to make it as simple as possible. I hope you know that if you don't use comma, you're making big blunders. So don't forget to do that when you're writing an email, you're writing a paper, SSC, or any examination that you're looking forward to. Please start using comma, otherwise you're going to lose unnecessary marks, and that's going to actually, hamper you big way. So thank you very much. Don't forget to click on subscribe, and after that click on this bell so you're informed every time we upload a new video. So till then, goodbye. I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye bye. Take care.